Hello, everyone. Welcome to this important discussion on human rights in China. This session features individuals with direct experience and deep knowledge of the attitude of the Chinese regime to human rights within and outside its borders. Moderating this panel is Martin Pánek, director of Institut liberálních studií in Prague. Our panelists bring distinct and valuable perspectives. Dr. Lobsang Sangay, thank you, is a Tibetan-American politician in exile who was the democratically elected Sikyong president of the Central Tibetan Administration from 2012 to 2021. He is recognized as an expert in international human rights law, democratic constitutionalism, and conflict resolution. Li Schoolland is a pro-liberty activist originally from China. Having lived through Mao's regime, including the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, where her family faced persecution, she now dedicates her work to promoting liberty globally. She represents the Acton Institute in Asia and the Pacific, organizes conferences on Austrian economics and entrepreneurship, and facilitates the translation of libertarian literature for Chinese audience. Zhou Fengsuo was a prominent student leader during the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989 while studying physics at Tsinghua University. Listed as number 5 on the Chinese government's most wanted list after the crackdown, he was imprisoned for a year before eventually gaining exile in the United States. He co-founded and currently serves as the president of Humanitarian China, an organization supporting political prisoners and promoting human rights and the rule of law in China. This panel offers a unique convergence of perspectives on human rights challenges related to China. Please join me in welcoming Lobsang Sangay, Li Schoolland, and Zhou Fengsuo.
Good morning. We don't have much time, so I will give the floor to the speakers very soon. We will start with introductory remarks, and Mrs. Schoolland wanted to go first. So, what's the state of human rights in China?
Well, when you talk these words, human rights, the first thing you have to be a human. Then you talk about human rights. But when I was born in China in 1958, we were not considered to be a human because the Chinese Communist Party segregated the people into black and red. The blacks are landowners. Rich people means you have your own home, you maybe have a business or something, you're not starving, and so forth, so on. So my family background was they were entrepreneurs, they were educated, and they were the shaker and mover of the Chinese economy at the turn of the last century. So automatically, I was born into a black family. As a black kid, we're not considered to be human being. We were called the offspring of dogs. So there's no such a thing of human rights because you're not even a human. And when I went to elementary school, we were not allowed to participate in any extracurricular activities, singing, dancing, book reading, whatsoever, because we're black. And when we go onto the street, other kids can randomly beat us up, kick us, take our things away. We we were not allowed to defend ourselves because we were not human beings. We were black. The other kids were red. So they have rights to do whatever they want to do to us. More than that, during the Cultural Revolution, my father became political prisoner. On top of being a black, non-human, we're prisoners, kids. We get more terrible treatment. And we just have to bow down, lower our head, and let them do whatever they want to do to us. And I remember went to the train station because my grandparents lived in Shanghai. My grandma got ill, so we have to go visit. Then we have to go to, there's 2 gates, one for red and one for black. And the black didn't get seating, even though it was a 36-hour train ride, and because we're black. And I asked my mom, I said, why can't we pretend we're red? Because our skin color is the same. We don't look different. Why do we have to line up in the line to go through the gates for the black? And my mom said, you don't dare to pretend because we have different manners. We're educated people for some reason. And if they find out we're pretending to be red, we will be probably getting beaten or sometimes even beaten to death. Because a life for non-human being is not a life worth respect. I think the fundamental difference between free world and communist is the respect for human lives, human dignities. Because I believe we are all created by God with God's image and character. And the communists don't believe that. So we're not worth of respecting. Fast forward to the Chinese one-child policy. That's another evidence to show they don't respect human lives. I was in China just last week. I flew from China to here. And I was asking my friends, they all had more than one child. I said, how did you make it? How did you do it? They said, oh, we hide. We do everything. We have friends in the office, and they will tell us, somebody is going to your house to get you. Run. So they just run. Sometimes they run for a few days. Sometimes they run until they get birth to the child. What happens if they get caught? And they said one of her friends didn't run fast enough, got caught, and she was 7 months pregnant. And the government officials inject some, they call it abortion injection, to the stomach of the woman, targeted at the head of the fetus, the baby. And so to kill the baby inside. And for some reason, her daughter didn't die. So she gave the birth to her daughter, but of course, the brain is damaged because of the injection. That happens every single day. I have one of my good friends who's a very active libertarian and Austrian economist in China, young person. I asked him, how did you become a libertarian and Austrian school economist? He said when he was little, one day he went into an indoor basketball court. And he saw hundreds of women laying on the cement floor, bleeding and mourning. It was all the people they caught and forced abortion. There's no hospital bed, nothing. They were just lined up in this basketball court. And without any sanitation equipment, whatever, regardless how long is your pregnancy, they just killed the baby and left the mother bleeding and crying on the ground. After he saw that, he thought something's wrong with this government. Something's wrong, so he was searching, and he found books to read and eventually now he's very active promoting the idea of liberty, free market. And so you're not treated as a human. There's no such a thing as human rights. Unless you are human, then you can think about your rights first. So right now, China have limited economic freedom because the Chinese government they don't have rule of law in China. So they haven't been able to make a lot of regulations. So people take advantage of that, especially in the rural area, far from Beijing. We have a saying, if you're far from this government, you have more freedom, since history. So people became rich. They have small entrepreneurs, and they have room to exercise their freedom, economic freedom. So China is, people's life is getting better, more food, a lot of choices of food, but still there's no human rights, and they're not respected as human beings. If the government wants to condemn your house to build a freeway, they can just bulldoze you with the house because it doesn't matter. They even have a quota. 3 people died, it's okay. More than 3 may be something, an issue. So earlier, we're talking about child mortality rate. People are counting of how many children survive as an indication of prosperity or development. In China, they don't even want you to get born. So it's totally a different standard under the communist. It's not.
Thank you. I think we have to give the floor to the other speakers as well. So the second is Mr. Cho. You have about the same time. It should work.
Hello.
Try to say something.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here speaking to students for Liberty Europe. I met many of you last year, and here in Prague, I always feel welcome. And this country has been a great supporter for China's human rights. And not far from here at Dogs Museum, there is the first permanent installment of the sculpture of the only Chinese Nobel Peace Laureate Liu Xiaobo, who was a friend of mine on Tiananmen. He died in prison. And here there's a sculpture of him at Dogs Center for Modern Arts. It's not too far from here. And the former president, Václav Havel, has been the most outspoken voice for China's human rights in supporting people like Liu Xiaobo. And today, we have thousands and tens of thousands of political prisoners in China. But the worst thing is most, we don't really know their name. Many of them would come to us only after years in prison, and there's very little information that external world know about them. Even the most famous political prisoners, for example, Dr. Wang Bingzhang and lawyer Gao Zhisheng, they are like always. Dr. Wang Bingzhang came back to China a few times, then he was kidnapped back to China. He's spending more than 20 years in prison now, with no expectation of being released. And the world today doesn't know anything about him. And this has been my work since 1989, 36 years ago, when I was a student leader on Tiananmen squares, to speak for these people who are the conscious of China and the hope for free and a democratic China. 36 years ago, I was a student, about the same age as many here, and that was the first time for me to witness the sudden eruption of people's true voice on Tiananmen Square. It was the first time there I spoke to many people in public. I made my first speech on Declaration of Independence, and I want to advocate that as a principle for the Constitution for a democratic China. And it was there, millions of people in Beijing alone gathered in support for free and democratic China. I think that represented at that time the majority of people in Beijing. That was the political center of China, and it is, still is today. And that's when China was, for the first time, probably only time, associated with democracy. And the whole world was watching for about 2 months. Last November, I went to the celebration of the anniversary of the fall of Berlin Wall in Berlin. And there, most people don't realize how big impact that the Tiananmen protest had on the fall of Berlin Wall. I met many East Germany protesters. They were galvanized by the people on Tiananmen Square. And one of their flags there, the most prominent flag, says democracy, and it was in Chinese character. But what has changed today, if people think about China today, it's exactly the opposite now. It represents the ideal state of central control, of complete repression of individual rights with modern technology. And in a very strange way, it's also embedded in the current system of trade and commerce and all the economic situation. I think that's why we are facing a very complex, difficult situation today.
I'm afraid we have to give the floor to the last speaker. We'll come back to you for sure. So, Mr. Sangay,
Hello.
I think you should speak to the number 3.
No. So we are designated numbers, so we have to speak. At least I'll try to get up so that I can shake off my jet lag, and also at least we see each other, the people at the back, so you don't have to have pain in your neck after attending the session. So as two of my colleagues talked about China in general, I just want to project China, because there is this great power rivalry between America and China, or West and China. And then many people are talking about Chinese world order. Some people in the third world countries embrace Chinese world order, saying this is more efficient, it will bring prosperity and development and all that. But you should know what Chinese world order is. In China today, the foreign minister of China disappeared, was appointed by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Weeks passed, months passed, he just disappeared. No one can report about it. Defense minister was appointed and then disappeared. generals were appointed, disappeared. Now, can you imagine your country's foreign minister disappearing for 2 weeks? People say, where is he? We want to see, we want to meet with him. No, he's gone. In China, you can do whatever you want with your ministers, cabinet ministers, and no one can complain. That's Chinese world order. The surveillance system can track you everywhere you go, not just collect data, but if you do anything wrong, you will be penalized. An algorithm is such that if there are certain people of having certain background gathering one place, there will be police coming and surrounding you and beating you, arresting you. The surveillance system is so advanced, they can literally control you. Now that's in China. In Tibet, 1 million Tibetan children are sent to boarding school to Sinicize them, teach them in Chinese language, make them Chinese, salute Xi Jinping, Communist Party, let them forget Tibetan culture. 1.5 or 2 million Uyghurs are sent to labor camps or concentration camps. Even the Human Rights Commissioner has come out with a report. And what can Chinese people do? Nothing much. What can Tibetans do? Nothing much. Now, our minerals are exploited. 75% of lithium reserve, lithium we all know is needed for batteries now, it's in Tibet. 90% of rare earth, nowadays, about tariff war, rare earth is mentioned all over the news. 90% of the rare earth comes from Inner Mongolia, not Han Chinese China, Inner Mongolia. 40% of coal, 40% of iron, 80% of cotton comes from Uyghur region, East Turkestan. They exploit our minerals, our critical minerals, our resources. That's how the Chinese products are so cheap. Now, if you buy, I'm sure many of you have iPhone or iPad or electric car, and many of you wear Chinese-made clothes. Remember, 80% of that cotton is from Uyghur region. 75% of your batteries of your iPad and iPhones are from Tibet. 90% of the rare earth in those gadgets, including airplanes and rockets, are from Inner Mongolia. When your battery dies, you should remember it's the Tibetan battery. It's the Uyghur. It's the Mongolian rare earth. Remember. Now, that's China. Now, are they exporting all these things? Yes, Ukraine war. Why Russia is able to prolong its war? They can't. Why? Because China is buying all the energy from Russia. They're enriching them. And China is providing all the raw materials to Iran to make Shahed drones, and Iran supplies to Russia. China provides raw materials to North Korea, their best allies, and North Korea provides missiles to Russia, and they hit Ukraine. I was there in Ukraine for 36 hours. 3 Shahed drones hit Ukraine. That's made in Ukraine, made in Iran, but the materials are from China. So there is a direct impact. Now at the United Nations, China and Russia combinedly are trying to redefine human rights. At the moment when we say human rights, we say political rights, right to protest, freedom of speech, right to have election. Chinese government, Russia says no. Economic and social rights are more important than political rights. That means if we give you bread, butter, and shelter, you should shut up. Government will run the country, and you have no right to protest. And then, Chinese government has 102 police stations in 52 countries, including America, including United Kingdom. Can you believe that? Including Canada, including the Netherlands, including in Europe. Now, Netherlands are investigating. How can you have Chinese police station right here in Netherlands, tracking Chinese people, our dissidents, harassing them, intimidating them? So Chinese Communist Party's tentacles are already in Europe. Remember, you might be tracked by the Chinese police station. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are already in this room as well. Because the fact that we are here.
Please raise your hand if you're from the Chinese embassy.
I can smell him. So, this is real. The threat of the Chinese world order is real. I know the present Western world order has all the double standard and hypocrisy, and we face that. We are also the victims of Western double standard. Some countries, when we go, they want to meet with you. Some countries, they want to ignore you. They treat you as a nuisance. As the Prime Minister or President of Tibetan government exile, I've been to so many capitals. So many meetings canceled at the last moment because the Chinese embassy called them and said, you don't meet with him, he's a troublemaker. Okay. I'm talking about European ministers, okay? If you want names, I can give you names. I can give you a Norwegian name. Foreign Minister of Norway. Where is he now? He is the president and CEO of World Economic Forum. He cut $100,000 to $200,000 aid that Tibetans used to receive for all people's medicine, for their mattresses. And Norway has surplus of budget every year. They don't need a single Chinese renminbi. They just cut it. And later I said, why did it happen? He happens to be an advisor of the Chinese International Trade Council. Then in 2017, he became the president and CEO of World Economic Forum, Davos. And who was his first guest, chief guest? Xi Jinping. You Google. And recently, Donald Trump, the president of America, appeared through video call on World Economic Forum, and each of the CEOs who had businesses with America were asking him questions. And the moderator was former Foreign Minister of Norway. And his question was, 21st century will be decided by China and America. He put China first. China and America. So relationship between Chinese, you and Xi Jinping is very important. It seems you called him. What happened? And you know, Trump has a bit of ego. He said, no, I didn't call him. He called me. In the Western context, you might not understand. But in the Chinese context, the Asian context, when Xi Jinping calls someone, that's an embarrassment. Normally, Xi Jinping and China project themselves as the next superpower. Now, all the world leaders should come to us. We are not going to go to them. They should call us, not me. We won't call them. Xi Jinping seems to be calling Trump. Hey, buddy, let's do something about things. That's such an embarrassment. But it was exposed by the president and CEO of World Economic Forum, who happened to be the former foreign minister of Norway. Now, do you want more names? My point is, Chinese tentacles are everywhere. And we always say this, what happened to Tibet will happen to you. And it's already happening. So be careful of Chinese world order. Thank you.
Thank you for your impassioned speech. We are a bit pressed for time. I think we need to give the floor to the audience a bit later. Do you have anything to add before we do so in a couple of minutes? But please be quick.
I'm just make one comment. I bet at least one person in this audience has Temu app on your phone. That's a Chinese cheap shopping. If you have Temu on your phone, the Chinese government is listening to us right now.
Ni hao, if you're listening.
Hello. Yeah, I also want to add a few points. First, that we all seen the negative side of technology controlled by CCP. But there's also the positive side. The positive side is that outside of CCP control, there's a vibrant cyber community for Chinese freedom-loving community. And that's engined on Twitter, Telegram, Instagram. And that's why there was a white paper protest in China. And it was largely advocated outside of China by people on Twitter and on Telegram. For example, there's one account called Teacher Li, He's based in Italy now. He has 2 million followers on Twitter. And a single tweet that my organization, Human Rights in China, wrote on Tiananmen Square, when broadcasted by him, received 4 million views on that day, the 35th anniversary of Tiananmen massacre last year. So 4 million people read that single tweet. That means there are tens of millions of people using Twitter and other platforms like YouTube from China. I think the estimate is between 30 million to 70 million. And these are the most influential group of people in China. And that's why today it's very important for us to work outside of China and to promote the idea of freedom and democracy through these technology platforms. And we can bring change back to China through this technology. The other aspect I want to talk about is trade. Today I think there's trade war, there's tariff, there's lots of confusion and controversy around there. But I think among all these, the main thesis there is about China and the United States. And I wish Trump had been more focused on this issue other than like a global tariff. Because this has been the most important factor that enabled communist China to become what it is today. So we must change this, we must confront this. I was released after a year in prison because of pressure from United States. And why? Because at that time, the US Congress was about to debate on whether to grant China the most favored nation status on trade. This was year 1990, a year after Tiananmen massacre. That's why I was released, because United States has this leverage on China at that time to link human rights situation to trade. And this was removed a few years later by President Clinton. And even worse, in about the year 2000, this was bipartisan decision to allow China to join WTO, World Trade Organization, without any condition on human rights. And that's why we are facing today's challenge now. And on the positive side, one of the most effective legislation in the United States in last few years was the Uyghur Forced Labor Act that forced United States companies to extricate themselves from the forced labor in Uyghur regions. And we need this link, this trade that without any regard to human rights situation, enables this regime to commit the human rights violations in Tibet, in Uyghur, in Hong Kong. For the libertarian, there's no other example most striking than Hong Kong. This last 6 years, since 2019, it used to be the model of free trade. And now, today, it's becoming another area, under communist, just like Xinjiang, like Shanghai. Most people don't realize that 3 years ago, about this time, Shanghai, the most prosperous city in China, with more millionaires probably than even Berlin or Prague, but there were many people who were starved to death, not because there wasn't enough food, just because the government controls everything. And the technology today enables the government to control everybody at every moment. And that's what's in place in this Chinese model today. And that's what China is trying to promote to the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may just add a few examples regarding technology, right? TikTok is banned in India, and it's available in Europe and America also. The TikTok America, CEOs after CEOs appeared before US Congress and said, no, this is independent, Chinese government doesn't control us. US congressmen saying, no, TikTok, the Chinese government collects data, and then, they can track you, they can influence you. The CEO said, no, we are independent, remember? Now, US Congress banned it, but the President Trump said, no, I want to buy it, make it American. Now, what is the hurdle? President Trump, the TikTok said, no, we need permission from Xi Jinping. Now, Xi Jinping said, no, you can't sell it. And they are waiting for the permission of Xi Jinping. Is it not controlled by Chinese government? It is. Now, another thing, CGTN, Chinese Government Television Network, English language Facebook app, okay, just check. It has 126 million followers. English language, this is not Chinese following. This is non-Chinese, English-speaking people following around the world. 126 million means CNN has, I think, 50 million followers. BBC has 56 million followers. Al Jazeera has 26 million followers. Even if you combine these three together, has less followers than Chinese government television network. That's how penetrative Chinese media is. Finally, a Tibetan monk called Hunkar Dorje Rinpoche was pressured to recognize Chinese appointed fake pension lama. He refused under so much pressure inside Tibet. Finally, he fled to Vietnam. He escaped. He was hiding there. Chinese police tracked him. And finally, with Vietnamese authorities, they went to his hotel and detained him for a few days. Soon after, he just died. And the body is in the hospital of Vietnam. So they can come and track you outside of China and kill you outside of China. And then they went to this monastery and said, he died in Vietnam. How can he die in Vietnam? He's in his 50s. He was very healthy. So, and you can have Swedish author disappearing from Thailand. So you have so many examples. So the penetration of Chinese influence is everywhere. Now, Facebook is banned in China, but Chinese government using Facebook to have 126 million followers around the world. Instagram is banned in China. Twitter is banned in China, but all the Chinese diplomats have Twitter or X account to spread the propaganda. Why can't they have reciprocity? You banned Facebook in China, we banned Timur. You banned other apps in China, why can't we ban TikTok? So these are the serious debates we need to have, and you are the future leaders. Next time, you sign the ban order, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
One example.
I'm told we cannot keep people from lunch, so we only have a couple of minutes. I would like to take at least one question from the audience, if that's okay. If there's a hand. Okay. Please be concise.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Now in Chinese history, the Communist Party reigned since 1949, and you had many empirical dynasties before that always rose and fell later at some stage. What can you think can bring change to China in terms of human rights? Can trade, free trade with China bring change and improvements to human rights? Do you believe in this? Because many in Europe start to doubt it.
Yeah, I think that used to be the orthodoxy, but I had the sense that you disagree with it.
Yeah, I think I have answered this question probably in my earlier comment. The trade as it's today only enabled this government, and huge trade surplus. It's a design because they keep Chinese people poor. They don't really have any purchase power. They have to find external market, and that's by design. And they do not want Chinese people to have true prosperity. Even after all this development today, Xi Jinping is controlling more and more. I think there was a very good point mentioned by Tom Palmer about peace and trade. Whether more trade can prevent war. And it has to be private trade. But the problem with China today is that there's not a single company that can claim to have private ownership, zero company. So you are dealing with every company, any company from China. It's part of this state entity. It's the state you are trading with, and it's the state you're providing the investments, the funding for whatever the state is doing. So I think that's a major distinction we have to make today.
If I may, to trade, for example, World Trade Organization, when China joined, it was unconditional. That was the mistake. So China got away with it. They said, okay, we can sell all the things we want to the rest of the world, right? But we will see what to buy, what not to buy. And you enrich China. Now you can't put condition, even if you put condition, they will ignore you. So unfortunately, West made a mistake. But even today, there is an opportunity. Europe and America combined is the biggest market for China's goods. If you can put, not banned, reciprocity, you ban all these things. But China imposes a lot of tariff and taxes on European and American goods. If you do reciprocity and say, we open up this much, you open up this much, then there can be fair trade and there won't be surplus as such, right? So unconditional trade that we started enrich and empower the Communist Party, and they just think they can get away with it. So that's the naivety of Europe and America or the West. And still the naivety is going on. So the younger generation should be, I'm sure you all wake up and be objective and fair and defend human rights and democracy and liberty all the time.
My opinion, I think free trade is still very essential, but it will change the political situation or not is not certain, because since 1990, China has been practicing relatively free economic freedom in China and trade with the world, but it did not change the situation. But the interesting thing is, in the top Chinese economists, in the top Chinese government, most of them are Austrian school economists. Can you believe it? They read far more than I did. They read Ayn Rand, they read all
your
Mises
conferences,
and everything. And but they separate economics and the politics. And so also their principle of belief, the ideology of communism, is a harmful thing.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I see there's great interest. I hope the speakers will stay with us at least for a little while. I'm told that the lunch is ready, and you should enjoy the lunch. Thank you for your attention, and I thank the speakers for this very interesting panel. It was very harrowing and not very optimistic, I should say, but that's what the situation is. Thank you.